Right, here we are again. I've got an interesting one now. We've got an Orville Les Paul, we think Japanese made. We've got a Gibson Burstbucker 1 in the neck position. In the bridge, we've got a PRS Dragon 2 treble. Very unusual. I've never used that pickup before. And then we're running through a Ceriatone 15 watt head, which has pretty much been based on an EF86, the EF86 side of a Vox DC30. And then we're running that into a Celestion Anniversary 75 or 70? 70. And what was the name of this cabinet again? A Fargen. That's pretty unusual. But I love the extension cabinet. It's fantastic sounding. Anyway, so done a little bit of mucking around with this. We've got it running on half its power, so it should be 7.5 watts. Seems to be a little bit better in this environment, just in a bedroom, basically a lounge room kind of thing. So here we are with a bit of distortion. Okay, so pretty much a normal kind of vintage rock and distortion. This is the Cream Brulee series of the Ceriatone. We're not too sure where they're made, somewhere in Asia. And this one has a pull-in, pull-out, kind of push-in, pull-out master volume. So in other words, if we don't pull this out, we have no control over the master volume. It just runs loud. And so that's good if you want it to run at its full volume and clean and just control it by the gain here, which I'm sure some people do. In this case, we're not doing it that way because all my neighbours would be bashing on my walls. We're running the gain full blast at the moment, and that's to get maximum distortion. And we knock it back. The tone's very interesting. It's got 5 different positions. So when it's fully down, it's very vintage Marshall. Hang on, let me run that full again. And that sounds to me very much like the old vintage Marshall heads that I used to have to use with almost no bottom end to them whatsoever, but they cut through, and that's what made that sound so famous. And then as you go through the tones, next switch, next switch, next, and did 2 then. So obviously we get more bass. And so on. So my favourite position at the moment is the 3rd position, I think. Yep. Which is a mix of that vintage sound, but still with a little bit of body to it. Also, this head features a different bright switch, 3 different positions. So at the moment I've got it in 1. We've discovered when it's in 0 position, it's pretty dull. 1 is next bright, and 2 is brighter again. While I'm on the distortion, so I don't want it super bright, and so I'm only running at 1. And I'll show you more of that when we get to the clean. Also, it's got a cut, and the cut seems to be based around rolling off the bass. So at the moment, the bass is running full. And when I pull the cut right around, it just rolls the bass off a bit. Now, not a lot of difference. Now, I don't know if you're picking that up, but basically the really sub-low frequencies are getting cut off when I run it around the other way. And obviously, if you want that big open round sound, which we're going for at the moment, we leave the cut fully around to that side. All right, let's have a look at some clean sounds. Obviously, this guitar has got humbuckers, so it's not going to be as clean as a guitar with single coils, but we'll give it a go anyway. And also, I'm going to flick this switch here and bring this brightness up to 2. This is a good chance to have a look at this bright switch. I'm going to take it down 1 notch. Okay, so up on 2 again. So it seems to have a lot more 2K, really, just a little bit more quack about it. And down to 1, seems to be a bit silkier. And then when we go to 0, pretty dull. And so that's great if you've got a guitar that's too bright. You can always get rid of it a little bit. So yeah, my favourite position, I suppose. Or 2 if you just want to cut through a little bit more. So it's always interesting to hear these things work in their different environments. So on the clean side of things, you can really hear what that switch does. When you put it onto full distortion, it doesn't quite sound as abrupt, and obviously it still does something, but you really need to be honing your brain into that particular sound. Let's go back to the distortions. These vintage amps obviously only have a certain amount of gain. And of course what most metalheads do is they put an overdrive in front of that when they really want it to sing. We've got a little big white monkey pedal here. It's called the Spider. Basically it's an overdrive similar to a tube screamer or based on that. So we'll kick that in as well. So you can hear that's added a lot more. Without it, here it is without it. And with it. Alright, so hopefully we've covered a few bases there. Unusual guitar, an interesting amp. You'll see a lot more of these in the future.